Hi guys, welcome back to Cupcakes and Protein Shakes. I am your host, Savannah. We're doing another episode. We're sitting down with a fellow athlete. So introduce your name and tell us where you are from.
I'm Teresa Wight. I'm actually originally from Hawaii, and I am now here in Georgia.
Okay. Well, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to chat and kind of get caught up on your journey and see what's going on with your life. So what are you doing right now? Are you prepping? Are you off seasoning? Tell me where you're at right now.
Well, I'm in my improvement season. I just finished a show, I think it's about 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now. And yeah, so I'm reversing out of that show and just trying to make some improvements and see
Yeah.
where I'm at. Yeah.
Well, how was your experience at your show? How did you do and what was your feedback?
My show, I always enjoy the show. This was only my second show I've ever done. And I just love the atmosphere. Everyone's done all the work and you're just ready just to get out there and show what you've done. And everyone's just so positive and it's just a great experience overall. Just like-minded people together. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, and my feedback is kind of the usual feedback, a little bit of more like glutes and a little bit more like shoulders, so it's the typical feedback for a bikini girl. It's just more glutes
Uh,
and
yeah.
shoulders. And you're like, all right.
More shoulders, more muscle. But
Yeah.
that's all we can do is just keep building on that feedback, which makes it easy if you know what to improve. Just keep hitting it hard like you have been. What competition was it that you competed in?
I did the Night of the Gladiators.
Okay.
It's in Tifton, Georgia.
Okay. And during this time, okay, so you said this was your second show. When was your first show and how long had it been since you've been on stage?
My first show was it Clash of the Titans, and I didn't do it this year. I did it last year. And that was like about June, I think it was beginning, middle-ish of June, if I
Okay.
remember right. Yeah,
So it's been what, a year between shows?
it's been about like a year and a couple months. Yeah, about a
Okay.
year.
Yeah. Well, during that time, okay, so from first show to second show, now you have a comparison. Which show was your favorite show?
Um, well, so the first experience, you never know what's going to happen going into it. And so I'm going to say my first show was my favorite just because it's like you get to be part of that world now. So it's like the only time you're ever going to get to experience that. Um, but then now having done the second show, I think the package I brought to stage was my favorite on this second show. And I just hope to keep getting better that way too. But I think that nothing takes away from the first time of getting on stage. And I think that that's my favorite part, was really finding out what the world was like and seeing if I actually could fit into it.
Mhm.
And so, and then getting to realize, wow, a lot of people are like me and they're just as jittery, whether it's their first show or it's their 20th or whatever. So it was just a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so you said fitting into this world. Why did you think that you wouldn't fit into this world?
Uh, so I've always wanted to be an athlete.
Yeah.
I've never felt like I could actually call myself an athlete, just because I haven't done a lot of team sports. I'm not like a team sport kind of person. I realized that from the very get-go. I'm a pretty introverted person. And I'd never liked the idea that everyone's depending on me to do one part. And also the same way, I didn't want to have to depend on somebody else to do their part so I could do mine. So team sports were never really my thing. I still like the support of it. And so I got into track and field when I was in high school. And I loved it because I liked going running in the mornings already before that. I'm not fast. I realized that from the very get-go, but I enjoyed being part of that world, being part of fitness, being part of a team, but not necessarily having to depend on a team. And so as I got older, you know, and out of high school and everything, I never really followed that other than just running on my own. And so I never felt like I could call myself an athlete. And I discovered bodybuilding, bikini, and all of that like later on. And I just been admiring it from afar for a few years. And I was like, you know, I think I'm gonna give it a shot. And I had told one of my friends, I'm like, you know, kind of nervously, I'm thinking about possibly getting into it. And I was like, I don't know where to start really, but I'm kind of thinking about it. She's like, you should do it. And I had just had my last baby. And so I was still trying to get the baby weight off and that kind of thing, and kind of hit a wall, and I needed a goal. I needed something to drive me. And I was like, I've been admiring this for so long. Maybe I should give it a shot. And my friend's like, yeah, go for it. Do it. And so I was like, well, you know, maybe I'll give it a shot, see what it's about. And so getting on that stage the first time was like, I can finally call myself an athlete. I remember they gave us a little badge that says athlete on it. And I was just like, I'm an athlete. This is me, you know? And so it was just, and that was part of the things that was my favorite part, was being able to actually call myself an athlete. It's like, yes, I did the things, and now I get to show what I did. And so it was really nice.
Yeah. I mean, I went through a similar experience when that first show, because you're transitioning from not being into the world to being into the world. I remember people would ask me, like, they noticed, okay, you're getting lean, or like, there's something going on here, like, what's going on? And I would be so scared to say, I am a bikini competitor, or I'm training for a bikini competition. I would just say, oh, I'm just like toning up. Like, I would be so nervous to tell them for the first show that I was, training for a competition, because it's really not until after you do the show that you kind of feel like, okay, I did it. But like, while you're working towards it, it's kind of like, oh, this is my first time. I'm not really sure if I can consider myself like an official athlete yet. I'm just dipping my toe. I've only been doing this for a couple weeks now. I'm trying to be an athlete, but no, the training for any type of competition, like, you are an athlete, you are living and breathing. Like, prepping is, I feel like it's harder than being like any type of athlete, like, because it's the diet, it's diet 24/7, it's think about the training 24/7, think about the posing, it's all of that prep work that goes into your show day or your competition. And it is different. It's not necessarily a team sport. It's 100% an individual sport. So the effort that you put in, it's what you get out. And so I did both team sports and I only did team sports. So I never had an avenue to try an individual. And that was kind of scary, because I'm like, uh-oh, now it's only my hard work on stage. Nobody else. I can't rely on anybody else except for myself. But it's more rewarding when you get up there and you can truly stand with this body that you hard work for. Nobody else got it for you. No one else got up and did the cardio. No one else ate the foods. So you get there and you show up and you're like, this is 100% me and my hard work. So it's very rewarding. From the first show to the second show, have your goals changed with it? So like, first show, what was your goal? Second show, what is your goal? Or now, like, what is your goal with the sport?
So, okay. First, I just wanted to see if I could even fit in. And like you said, it was like people knew that something was going on. And then so I'd be like, well, my goal, like, I was almost afraid to tell them my goal was to just get on stage and see what it's about. Because you're like, well, I'm not really a competitor yet because I haven't competed. So you're like, I'm trying to maybe, you know. So the first show was really just to feel it out and really see if I wanted to be a competitor, because I have that, when I do something, I kind of throw everything into it. And so it takes me, I like to research a lot before I get into something because I know myself. I will throw myself into it. I don't want to kill myself over something that I don't want. And so that's why I've also been admiring it for so long. And it was something that I said, you know, when I'm done having children, um, then I will dive into this because I didn't want it to affect me having my family and or anything like that. I know people that will do it in between having children and all of that, and that's great. But I knew myself, and I was like, I had this goal to do family first, and then transition into doing this for me. And then with my second show, a lot of it was trying to figure out why I actually want to do it because I was like, well, um, am I shooting for a pro card? It would be nice one day, yes. Am I really using a pro card for anything? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. And so it was like, why am I doing this? And so a lot of it was more um, realizing that, like, because each prep, you're finding what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are and how to use them, and problem solve through that and everything, realizing that motivation and making that motivation work for you. So that second show, I realized that a lot of what I was trying to do was actually show, because I had been told by others, oh, you're an inspiration, you inspire me, you motivate me, I wish I could do that, and it's like, but you can if you want to. And I don't think people realize how capable your mind and your body actually is until you are able to put yourself in those situations to push yourself. Growing up, I was a shy kid. And like I said, I was introverted and very, very shy. It was hard for me to speak up. And I was that kid that would hide behind my parents and, and mumble when someone asked me a question. And it wasn't that I didn't want to be part of things or anything. It was just, I was very apprehensive. I was scared, I couldn't get the words out. And so with that second show, I wanted to really show my children, and in my journey in general, I wanted to show my kids that if you want to get further in life, you really need to push those boundaries. You really need to give yourself those challenges. I'm not saying like jump completely from A to Z, but like, giving just a little bit more each time, just pushing it just a little bit. I knew I was a shy kid, so I always had to like push it just a little bit, and so that I could try to come out of that a little bit more so I could do things that I wanted to do. I wanted to like not just admire the things, I wanted to take action and do those things. And I wanted to show other people, including my children, that's you need to decide who you want to be and take the actions to reach that goal, like, or those goals, and keep growing those goals, keep going further. Because I mean, it's life. You need to do those things to get better. Just really find yourself.
Yeah, like competing, I've been in competing, I feel like now longer than I was not ish kind of. And like at the beginning of it, I would say stuff like, I'll never be caught dead on a stage. I'll never do that. That's so crazy. So when I got introduced to it, a girl that I worked with had done the sport. And so it was kind of piqued my interest of, wow, that's pretty interesting that I know somebody that did it. And so then when you know someone that did it, it's like, okay, then the thought of, well, she can do it. Maybe that means I can do it because, we work at the same spot, we're the same age. She had no background in it. So that's kind of when that little idea sparks into something like where you're interested in. And again, it's a research phase. Like, okay, what is this about? Like, how does this work? She said that she's a bikini athlete, but bodybuilding, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Then you start to look and you're like, okay, I think I'm intrigued. I like how they look. I would love to look like this. If you're telling me that people can look like this, like on purpose, like you can control that, like, let's definitely do this. Let's sign up for it. And it does, like, that discipline that you learn during like something that's very uncomfortable. When you come out at the end, there's truly nothing, like, there's really nothing comparable that I've experienced that you can feel when you get to show day, like from starting to prep to whoever you were at the beginning to what you learned about yourself over the last X amount of weeks, you know, getting to the stage and just being like, wow, when you get there and you look at your body and it's perfect, whatever it looks like, it's the best it ever looks. You just are like, wow, I'm like actually proud. This is my hard work showcasing. It's the only time where you can really physically see hard work that you put into it, like on yourself. Sometimes, you work hard at a job, you can get a promotion or you can see like a number increase on a sheet, but like to actually physically see it on yourself of, ooh, I didn't have that. Ooh, I never had this. And like look and like, wow, I can control everything. I can, how many cakes did I have to say no for this? How many times out did I have to say no? So it just that feeling of self accomplishment. It gives you confidence that you can take into your everyday life. So if you are introverted, even though like you're going through this prep by yourself, usually alone in the gym, alone, like it's an alone sport, right? Sometimes when you get to show day, then you realize I'm not really alone here. There's a ton of girls that can relate to me. We're all here. We all made it somehow. So you start to make these connections in this world and you realize, okay, this is my normal. This is their normal. And so it just kind of builds from there and you just gain this like confidence and it does bring extrovertness out of introverts too, because you're just so excited on show day. Like everyone is just so excited. You're happy to be there. It's a celebration. And that's a good point that you bring up too. Why do we do this? Why is the most important thing? So if you're a competitor listening to this, or even just someone that's curious, if you're thinking about getting into the sport, you need to have a clear answer to why, not just because I think it'd be like, I guess you could do it for fun, but like long term, first show, whatever. But when you keep going, it's hard, it's expensive. So you really have to ask, like, is it just about winning or is it something else? And so you can make the most out of this. You can make it hard, you can make it not hard, you can make it a success no matter placing first, last, whatever it is, but it is whatever you make of it. And so I'm glad that you found the sport and going from hearing that you're being introverted to coming on and like coming onto a podcast, using your voice, sharing your story with others. That's a big step from probably like never thinking about doing that to like now getting to share your story, which is very exciting. During your prep, like what were some things that you learned about yourself during that time?
Um, okay, so I think it's just realizing that some of my weaknesses are actually strengths, in some ways. Like I'm a very detail oriented person. So I like to have all the information. Uh, I like it all laid out to me. The first time I competed, it was just feeling it out. And so I picked a coach that, to be honest, I admired the coach, but she was cheaper. And I wasn't sure if I really wanted to dive in. And I had been admiring Team Elite Physique for a long time. And I mean, Ashley Kay, I mean, everyone knows her in this world, and I was just like, man, I love her body. I wish I could have her body. And then I started admiring a lot of the other pros, and I was like, man, and so that first show, um, I think my coach was more suited for like transformation, not so much for like actual competition coaching. And so I felt like I kept trying to pull information out of my coach. And it was just like, I don't know if this is where I should be. And so I felt like I needed a little bit more from that. And so after I got off that stage the first time, as soon as I got off, I like, first you get on stage and you're just like, don't trip, make sure you remember how to do your pose, turn this way, push that way, whatever, right? You have all of these thoughts in your head and you're like, oh, did I smile? And then I got off stage and I was just like, that was awesome. I know there was a lot I needed to fix, but I enjoyed it so much that I was like, okay, I'm all in. So I joined Team Elite. Like this, like, what is it, October? Or yeah, I think it was October, November, no, November, just before Thanksgiving, which which I was like, man, I should have waited until after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But I just diet wise. But I think what I learned the most, um, one is to really know the coaches that you are trying to get involved with. Uh, Nothing wrong with my first coach. She did exactly what I needed her to do, sparked that interest and everything. And I don't have a problem with her at all. It was just like, but as far as competition goes, I think when it came down to my prep, it was easier because I wasn't really quite doing what I should be doing, I think. And so I think I could have came to stage a little bit better than I was, but I think it was the best I was at that time or I had ever been. So I'm not sorry about it at all. Uh, and then with this new team, and I plan on being on this team for a long time, love them. That support system and the amount of information that they give me really, really helps so much because, like, I like the details, I like the information. If I ask my coach, why are we doing this? She will tell me why we're doing this. And so I really enjoy that. So yes, I needed to know my coaches, um, and really find someone that I connected with. And I think also just the goal setting, like because of the information and everything, it can be a weakness quite a bit because if I don't have all of the information, I get really nervous. Like, and like, because I don't know what's going to happen. And I think in this last prep, it was okay not to know how it was going to be on stage because you don't know until you're in that situation. And I felt like as a new competitor, like if I had known that more the first time I went on stage, that it's okay to be a little bit more loose on that, um, and just trying to take in the experience a lot more, um, which I did. I did try to take it in, but I think the not knowing versus knowing that it's a little bit more relaxed would have been nice to know the first time around. And yeah, prep was a little bit harder this time around because it was supposed to be. But I felt like I came to the stage a lot more ready and like my mind was there because I, had all the information, and some of my weaknesses I was able to overcome because I had like my details down in my information and everything. So it was really nice to be able to work through that. And if I was ever unsure, I could always ask my coach and she'd be like, you just got to get it. And sometimes, you need that honest feedback from the coach. I like the truth. And
Yeah.
so like, it's just like, you need to hit the ground running and you didn't. Let's change that. And it's like, oh, okay. At first it's like, what? I thought I did. But then you realize I was making excuses for myself. And it's so easy to do that.
It's
But
easy. So I'm on Team Elite too, so I know how you feel. It is eye-opening because I went from a local coach, again, nothing wrong with it. It just, I was starting to feel like, okay, in order to take my physique, I'm putting a lot of work in. I want to get results. I just know there's an expert that specifically, not just transformation, not just general lifestyle, but the peaking, the carbs, the calories, like all of these little details of specifically for the bikini division. So again, Team Elite is very great at their at lots of divisions, but specifically for bikini division, I was like, I just feel like there's so much knowledge here. I want to learn myself. So I'm like you, I like to learn and I like to understand. So if I understand, I can let go. So the transition, it kind of happens where it's like the first couple shows, I used to say, okay, how are we going to do peak week? Like 3, 4, 5 weeks out. Okay, I'm just trying to get everything on prior to plan. And I'd put these like check-ins that were like paragraphs. And then I'd
yeah,
get a response that was like, literally just focus on this week. You're not done prepping. We'll get there when we get there. We don't know where you're going to be at. And I was like, what do you mean you don't know where we're going to be at? Aren't you supposed to know these things? It's like, no, the coach is looking at data from week to week and then historically using what they know about you to make a plan forward. But you plug in X input of cardio and diet and whatever, and then you get out the next week and see what happens. Do we look how we look? Do we not look how we look? Is the weight up? Is the weight down? If it works, let's keep doing it. If it doesn't work, let's tweak a little something. So it's small little tweaks here and there. And again, if the effort's not there, every week, more cardio, less and I don't think you really realize how much effort that you could have put until you get to the show, until after the show when you can reflect on it of, man, there's a few weeks in there that I really wasn't pushing, or I kind of wasn't kind of a little lax on my diet. Like I would just either not weigh it out perfectly, or I remember I kind of like missed a couple of training sessions and stuff like that. And at the time, you kind of justify it and don't really think that there's going to be an impact for all those little decisions. But once you get to the show, you can really say, oh, okay, now I understand what an all out means. It's like, especially if you get super close to it and then you get to show and you're like, okay, that there's nothing like getting to show day, looking at yourself and being like, oh, okay, when we were trying to push hard a few weeks ago, it wasn't punishment. It was so when we got to this moment, there wasn't going to be any regrets. We go, oh, I get it. And then it's like, so it takes a couple time doing it before it clicks of all out, 100%, full intensity from start to finish. That's prep. Like no excuses, nothing. You have to learn. You have to learn that about yourself. And it does take a coach that's going to be honest and be like, I did my best. You wanted to do the show. I tried. We tried, but there was a couple little weeks in there where maybe you weren't adhering. So then you kind of look back together, you look at the placings and you kind of say, like, there's been times where I wanted just to jump in and prep and I got told no, 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 no. Like you still need improvements. You need more muscle. Dieting longer is not going to be beneficial. And it's hard to hear that because you just want to go. You loved it. You want to do it again and again and again. But you have to, have a good coach that is going to objectively look at you and tell you, okay, you need to push harder. You're being lazy. I don't know what's going on. Have a kind of like come to Jesus talk if there's been a week where your pounds go up a lot. Like those are the type of coaches that you need. So your coach isn't supposed to necessarily be like, oh, it's okay. Like, no, it's sometimes they have to have those hard conversations, which are really going to benefit you. They're only trying to help.
Yeah. I mean, and in the end, that's what you're paying them for. I mean, you are making this decision. So you have to remember, I chose this. I want this for myself. And these are the steps that I'm taking. And I need to trust in, you got to trust in your coach. You got to, everything needs to line up and all of that. And if it doesn't, you need to adjust and make it work. And I mean, there were times where it's like, this kid is sick. I can't take them to the gym and put them in childcare. So I have to wait till my husband gets home. And then I have to work out later in the evening or whatever. Like I had to adjust and, all the things. Routine's great. I love routine, but you also have to learn how to adjust for when it's not there. And it's so easy to make that excuse, like, oh, well, I can't do it today because X, Y, and Z. But in reality, it's sort of like I'm being lazy and I need the kick every now and then. And I do remember my coach at one point going, Teresa, you needed to hit the ground running and we're not doing that. You wanted to do this show. And I'm like, okay. And at first I was like, oh, my coach is being, like I remember going to my husband going, I don't know if I want to do it. I think I actually put a post, like a little text message up at one point of my husband and I was like, everything hurts and I'm tired. And then he was just like, get up and do it. And it was just like, oh, okay. And so it's, yes, I love that support that my family gives and my coach gives and everything. I take it more as support, like, because it's really easy to make those excuses. And Yeah, I think, like that major why for my kids, like I do remember there was one time where I just didn't want to do things. I was, kind of a little like allergies were hitting, and you're like, oh, maybe I'm getting sick or whatever, and I remember coming downstairs and my son was up and he was all ready to go. And he's like, okay, mom, it's gym time. Because they had this whole routine. They knew that like I'd come down, I'd do my cardio, I would make breakfast. And then like as soon as like my daughter went to school, then I got the younger ones together and I was like, okay, let's go to the gym, and my son, he was all ready to go and he's like, okay, gym, time for my friends, and I'm just like, I can't say no.
I know.
And so having that little bit to keep you honest, that accountability is really great too. You're like, okay, that's right. I do. I have to get in a bikini and go and walk on that stage. I better be looking good.
Yeah.
I don't want that belly coming over to my bikini bottoms. I really need to get my act together. So, so yeah, having that support system is really great too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's great that you can set the example um, for your kids and that they understand that mom goes to the gym every day and that they know that this is normal, right? So you're training them while you're training yourself of these are mom's new habits. And then if you want to slip up, here comes your little mini coach, like, but this is not what you do. And then when you hear that, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I was gonna skip today. Thank you for humbling me. Like it's so just having those like that again, that support system. And in your head, you work up this situation of, oh, I'm so tired. Da, 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 da. I'm like, no, I can do this. Like I can do this. I do it every day. It is gonna be hard, but it's a mental hard. Like physically, from one day to the next, is it that challenging to go and lift weights? No. Yes. Is it challenging when you're dieting to lift weights? Yeah, yeah. But it's more really working in our heads. So it's a definitely a mental battle of like, can you keep going? Because that little voice that wants to, when it doesn't want you to go work out, and it wants you to go sleep in, it wants you just to be tired and oh, whatever, this is too hard. But when you kind of are like, you take control of it, it's so empowering because then you're like, okay, I had to do 2 hours of cardio, 1 hour, whatever it is. And on my tiredest day, if I can do that, what else can I do? So then it makes other things that aren't really that hard. You're like, okay, if this is the hardest thing in my life, then everything else is easy. So I can do anything.
Oh yeah, prep is so empowering in that way. I mean, yes, it does. It can bring you to your knees. It totally can. But like the little challenges and the pivots you make to overcome the challenge or change the mindset, a lot of it's changing the mindset, especially nowadays, like people are so into like the instant gratification. You have social media, you've got people that will shop for you and deliver you food and everything. You don't have to leave your house. Like you really don't have to if you don't want to. You know, that instant gratification that people like are so used to now. I feel like all the goal setting and the big, aspirations that people have are kind of getting pushed to the wayside because they are given everything that they want or need. Like they don't have to actually go out and do it. And so I wanted to show like my kids that, having that delayed um that working towards goals and stuff like that, uh, that motivation's just, it only gets you so far. You can be motivated and inspired by anything. Like, and I've done this as I've done fitness as my vessel, or I don't know, my tool to teach my children, um, but they don't necessarily have to get into fitness. I do want them to get up and moving, but like they don't have to do it like this. It's just more on the goal setting and everything, and really just taking action on your life. Like in the bodybuilding sense, someone told me I need a little bit more shoulders last year. So I've been working the shoulders. I've got more, but you could always need just a little more. And so it's just, I think in an interview, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I love this. He was like, I'm an artist, and I feel like this about life. It's not just bodybuilding. It's like you see that you need a little more upper back, so I do this workout and I'll get a little bit more upper back. I need a little more on my legs, I'll do this workout and get a little more on my legs. Like that, he's a sculptor. And I was like, well, that can be applied to just about anything in life. And I've been reading this book too, by Matthew McConaughey. I love this book. It's hilarious. If nobody's read it, you really totally should. Green Light, I think it's Green Lights, it's called. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he talks about the power of finding, what is it? Finding what I put in my journal, of ruling out the things you don't want in your life, and that'll put you exactly where you want to be. And I thought there was so much behind that concept. Like, if you know who you want to be, or at least in the general direction, that's great. But sometimes you don't know exactly what you want. Finding yourself, you have to look for it, right? But knowing what you don't want, it has so much power behind it, because just like, well, I remember when I was younger, I remember seeing my mom have, the mommy belly, the mommy pooch. And I was like, they tell you you're going to be your mom, and I'm like, I don't want the mommy pooch, And so I was like, what do I need to do to not get that? Right. And then I remember like not really liking team sports a ton, but I wanted to be an athlete. So I chose to run, and, so I think finding what you don't want can actually help you find who you are. And then even more so, you can make those little steps, the little pivots, and put yourself in good challenges that will strengthen you, and find those strengths too. And so like I try to do that with my children. I hope, there always hope that hopefully they see that part and try to overcome some of those weaknesses and stuff, and be able to overcome that motivation, and make it more of a dedication, and my husband told me this one thing, and it was like in my peak week, because I was prepping all of my food out for peak week. And I'm like, by this time I'm going to be brain dead. So I need all of my food lined out. And so I just started lining up everything, and I do usual meal prep, but peak week meal prep is entirely a different beast altogether. And so I was like, if I have it set out by day, then I can just grab it, and I can't, then I won't be like freaking out that I'm like, how much carbs do I have? And, that kind of thing. So I had it all laid out. My husband comes downstairs and he looks at the counter, and I have this whole mess of things like laid out and stuff. And I'm like writing with a pen Monday, Tuesday, and then extra carbs, so that when I have it, then I can just grab the bag and go, And he was like, my wife, or what is it? People may call this crazy, but my wife calls it dedication. And I was just like, that like stuck with me, and it like carried me through my whole peak week. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, let's go.
Yeah. So. No, I mean, it is, I have written, so I listen to Matthew McConaughey and stuff like that. Like I love podcasts and mindset, but on my bathroom, I say it's okay to be obsessed. And so when I kind of give myself permission, so when I'm writing on my baggies and I'm like, okay, this many grams and X this, and so it's like, this is a little obsessive. It's a little crazy, but it doesn't matter. It's my crazy. And so it is dedication. It's just, I care that much. So it's okay to give yourself permission to be a little crazy, to be a little extra, to do those things, because you know yourself. You know that I need my baggies completely weighed out, measured, all the food laid out on the thing and whatever. And it's like, at that point, you don't even care. You're like, I work too hard to let myself mess this up. I'm going to do what I need to do. And that's sometimes it is a little to the outsider. It looks a little at the end. You look a little crazy. You do when you're weighing your bags and you've got your bags and you're taking, like, I remember the concept of telling my boyfriend, I'm taking my food on trips. That was like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're gonna take food? Like, this is a vacation. Like, this is not how this works. I'm like, no, I like to know what I'm gonna eat, or bringing the food scale to places, like just little things like that. But through time, they kind of learned like, oh, I get it now. I get it. You love this, and it's okay to love this too. And just bringing that up to like the green lights of um that book, and like his mindset too of just I love that kind of stuff. Like, that is what prep is teaching you. You learn so much, you uncover so much about yourself. It's so easy to say like what food you don't like. If you have a food that you absolutely hate, you will not eat that. If someone tries to give you something that you like, your worst food that you just it's just disgusting to you, they're like, hey, do you want a bite of this food? And you're just like, oh gosh, no, like that. Oh, I don't eat that. Oh, that's just disgusting to me. It's so easy to, push the plate away and say, no, I don't like that. It should be the same way for things that you do like, but sometimes it's not. So it is a lot easier of find out what you don't like. Okay, if you don't like X, Y, Z, what is the opposite of that? That is what you do like. So when you just see the negatives, because it's so easy for us, we're so easy. I do like that. Like, you can look around. I do like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. But it's like you're saying, find out where you don't want to be, because life has a funny way. If you don't have a goal or a plan, it's going to take you to a place that you don't want to be. So if you're not controlling where you're going in the future, sometimes you might find yourself like, how did I get here? Well, if there wasn't a plan in place, like if you didn't have anything, life is going to keep going. So sometimes, wait, especially for weight, years will go on, days will go on. Oh, I'll start tomorrow, I'll start tomorrow, I'll start tomorrow. Before you know it, you do have that little pooch and you're like, how did this happen? I didn't want this. But you knew, but you never really made a goal of, okay, if I don't want this, what do I have to do to not have it? So that's really important, is that you know where you don't want to be, and then you find a goal to make sure that you don't get there. I think this is a good spot too, just to go over anything else, like a final message or just last piece of advice that you'd like to share and leave us with today.
Oh, okay. Last piece of advice. Uh, well, okay. Take action is my big thing. Like you were saying, like the find out where you don't want to be, to find where you need to or want to be, right? And I always bring this up, and it's another thing my husband said, and a really funny story that I'm not going to totally get into, but a body of stagnant water stinks, right? Um, uh, just really quickly for the story, the short little thing was we were playing baseball and threw a ball into the water, somewhere in Texas, and my husband jumped in to go grab it. That water was just putrid, and the second he hit that water, it's just the smell, and it's just like that. If you're not moving, you're just, you're it's not going to help you. It doesn't do anything. And so yes, even if your motivation is to get away from something you don't like, you will eventually find something that you do. Or if you're shooting for something that you like, you will get that thing, in one way or another, or find yourself in some place that you do like being. So just taking some kind of action will get you somewhere. It will get you to somewhere that you should be.
Very good. I love that. Okay. And if anyone wants to stay in touch with you through social media, what's your Instagram handle, or where can they connect with you?
My Instagram handle is at Fit White Lady, like my last name. It's WIGHT. So it's like light, but with a W. So Fit White Lady. on Instagram, and I think my TikTok, I just made a TikTok. I am not a TikTok person. I am trying to be. And I think it's the same Fit White Lady on TikTok too.
Yeah, I've been trying TikTok when I think about it, and it's just
I'm
like
not sure about it yet, but I'm trying. I'm trying to.
same. I'm not quite sure about it, but I just try it, and it's fun to watch TikTok. So
Yeah.
whenever I feel like it, I was like, oh, let me just post a TikTok about this. And so it's just fun just to have. Okay, well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. Thank you for coming on, and we will get your episode and probably, I think next Wednesday, maybe the Wednesday after that.
I have my answer for proteins or
Okay, good. Are you team cupcake or are you team protein shake?
I am protein shake, which
Okay.
it's funny because when I'm on prep, I'm like the sweet tooth person, and I'm not a cake person, but that's when I actually crave cake, is when I can't have it. But I am a protein shake person, and I love, right now, my protein shake is pumpkin spice because
Oh,
I want it to be fall. I'm in the South. It's still too hot to be fall, but it's my one thing. So I'll put my little bit of pumpkin now that I can have it. I'll put my little bit of pumpkin in there with some banana and my protein shake, and it's
oh my
so
God.
good.
Yes, I've been wanting to do some pumpkin spice like Ninja Creamies. So I love protein.
Yes.
I love protein ice cream. That's kind of my
Yes.
favorite thing. I really don't like just protein shakes by themselves, but protein ice cream. Okay, now you
Yeah.
got me.
That's
And
good
I
stuff.
do. I love pumpkin spice. I love pumpkin spice flavored. They have these pumpkin spice flavored yogurt covered pretzels.
Oh.
So good. So if you wanted to sprinkle with a little bit of carbs on something, those would be my suggestions.
Ooh. Now I got to make some protein ice cream.
All right.